Chapter 51. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 51. Love You More Than Him. Author. Bitter days. Machine translation. In a country full of foreign languages, hearing a friendly native language would naturally attract her attention. Liang Yunsheng took a closer look and was surprised to find that the person who had just bumped into her was actually the blonde handsome man on the plane. Be careful when you walk. Yin Qianqian said this in German. The strong German language was full of vigor. When it was said by Yin Qianqian, who was cold and indifferent, it shocked people even more. They did not dare to act rashly again. Liang Yunsheng's heart trembled slightly when she heard this. She subconsciously did not open her mouth to talk to that person. It's you, the cute girl on the plane. It was rare for a blonde man to be able to avoid being influenced by Yin Qianqian's dominance. Even if you're talking to a girl, shouldn't you take a look to see if there's another man standing next to her? Yin Qianqian was obviously not satisfied with the man's self-talk. Oh, so, you're a couple, but it seems that you can't see how much these bodies love you. Why don't you go out with me, little cutie? I'll definitely love you 100 times more than this cold gentleman and give you the greatest enthusiasm. Liang Yunsheng was really embarrassed. If the one standing beside her was her real boyfriend, then obviously, he would definitely use his own fists to drive away this boring harasser. But for Yin Qianqian, he would definitely hate him, but it was not because of the possessiveness caused by love. He obviously just hated that his authority was challenged and that people coveted his property. Liang Yunsheng did not forget that he had once told her that he hated it the most when people touched his things, and she was this insignificant little thing that could not be touched by others. Yin Qianqian moved a few steps forward. He did not even lower his head. He looked down at the man who was squatting on the ground and picking up a book. As if sensing Yin Qianqian's oppressive aura, the blonde man quickly packed his things and stood up. What department are you from? Yin Qianqian's voice was low. Don't mind my joke. Don't look so serious and serious. The man smiled and did not answer Yin Qianqian's question. Then, he looked down at his watch on his wrist and touched his forehead. Ah. I'm so sorry. I don't have time to continue chatting with you. I just returned to China today, and there are still a lot of things waiting for me to do. So, I'll see you two again if we're fated. Goodbye. Please, I don't want to see you again. Liang Yunsheng was relieved to see that the strange man had run away after avoiding the flirtatious eyes of the man. She finally recalled the question she had asked Yin Qianqian. Liang Yunsheng did not want to muddle through the matter. You clearly know German. Why did you lie to me? Is it fun to fool me? Or do you do whatever you like? Liang Yunsheng imitated Tang Sanzang and activated the muttering function. She was really like a jumping little sparrow that kept talking beside him. However, Yin Qianqian did not give her any answer. It was really strange. Why didn't she say anything? Liang Yunsheng, who was originally confident, immediately turned back into a little wife. Could it be that the relationship between the golden retriever just now had made him unhappy? Are you angry? Liang Yunsheng carefully followed behind him, her big black eyes rolling. That person. Yin Qianqian suddenly stopped. I think of him. Chapter 52. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 52. Are you afraid of the punishment from last time? Author. Bitter days. Machine translation. Liang Yunsheng was stunned. She didn't expect Yin Qianqian to say such a sentence. I remember him. He was referring to the blonde man just now. The only son of the leader of the French mafia. I met him once. If that man recognized his identity, the inexplicable actions towards Liang Yunsheng would make sense. Liang Yunsheng was shocked by the identity of the cheeky man just now, but what kind of relationship did he have with Yin Qianqian before? He had no intention to explain to her now. Since he didn't say it, she wouldn't ask. So you're thinking about this? I thought. Thought what? I thought you were unhappy like last time, because of this golden retriever. Liang Yunqing lowered her voice, afraid that the person in front of her would think that she was overthinking things. Yin Qianqian suddenly lowered his head and leaned close to Liang Yunqing's pink little face. He said softly, afraid that I'll punish you like last time. Punishment. It's that one her first kiss. Liang Yunqing's face suddenly flushed to the root of the ear, incoherent to change the topic. You have not said, what to lie to me. You think too much. I just want to test, see Fei Xiaolan, how you these months of special training results. Oh. What do you think? The reaction time is slow, but the usage and pronunciation of each word are very accurate, barely give 60 points. Hey, are you kidding me? She had spent so much effort to get 60 points. Liang Yunqing snorted and decided not to lower herself to this person's level. At least, she did not give him a failing grade. In the days that followed, other than going to the Rhine River, King's Lake, and Swan Castle, which were well-known scenic spots in Country D with Liang Yunqing, Yin Qianqian also took her to many small wineries, cafes, and private collections with folk culture. There were many other unknown but very interesting places. Liang Yunqing could not help but sigh. She had indeed studied in Country D. Even if she did not know everything here like the back of her hand, she could be considered proficient in it. Being together day and night, the relationship between the two of them had become a little closer. It was not that they had changed much, but they were changing subtly in some details. For example, when the two of them ate at home, Liang Yunqing would cook. Generally speaking, if there were two of them eating, one would naturally cook and the other would wash the dishes. However, facing the cold-faced Demon King, Liang Yunqing hesitated for a long time before she mustered up her courage and said to him, I'll cook and you wash the dishes. There was about 3 minutes of silence between the two of them, but Liang Yunqing felt that it was too torturous. Why did it feel like 3 hours had passed? Just as she was about to compromise and tell Yin Qianqian that he had just been dreaming and did not hear anything. Yin Qianqian suddenly stood up from the sofa and walked to the kitchen. Following that, the sound of bowls and chopsticks splashing and the splashing of water could be heard. Liang Yunqing secretly craned her head to observe Yin Qianqian in the kitchen. Only then did she realize that he was very agile. Obviously, he was not a young master who would not touch the sun. Hence, from that day onwards, the two of them had a tacit cooperation and got along well with each other. I'll cook while you wash the dishes. However, things had changed. Yin Qianqian was actually so unreliable. When he left her alone at home, Liang Yunqing sat on the sofa and flipped through her phone out of boredom. She realized that there was no reply to the message she had sent to Yin Qianqian. She struggled to call him again and again before she realized that her phone was turned off. He seemed to have received a call this morning and went out dressed. If she had not heard wrongly, the person on the other end of the phone was Saina. Liang Yunqing lay on the sofa moodily and shook her legs. Wasn't it a little ridiculous for her to be so worried about him? But if she did not go home, she should inform her roommate, right? The doorbell suddenly rang. Liang Yunqing's first reaction was that Yin Qianqian had returned. She immediately thought that if Yin Qianqian had returned, he should have a key. Why did he ring the doorbell? Chapter 53. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 53. The Beast Staring at the Little Rabbit. Author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. Liang Yunqing thought of this question, so she was a little cautious. Who could be the person knocking on the door at this time? Liang Yunqing was a little nervous. She secretly looked out of the peephole and found that the person knocking on the door was actually Saina, who was wearing a red low-cut sexy dress that stretched all the way to her thighs. Liang Yunqing blinked her eyes and calmed her eyes, which were affected by the visual impact. Only then did she realize that Saina was not standing outside the door alone. Beside Saina stood Yin Qianqian, who was frowning slightly. What are they doing? Although she was confused, since it was the two of them, Liang Yunqing felt relieved and opened the door boldly. Did you forget? You have the key. Liang Yunqing looked at Yin Qianqian strangely and said. Yes, I forgot. Even though Yin Qianqian was still very cold, Liang Yunqing also felt that something was wrong with Yin Qianqian. At this time, Sina walked over with a smile on her face. He drank too much, so I had to drive him back. In that case, I'll have to trouble you to take good care of her. How could she give him a good look? Liang Yunqing took a closer look and saw that there was no kind smile on Sina's face. It was an expression that showed that she had bad intentions and wanted to watch a good show. Liang Yunqing could not help but feel uncertain when she was swept by such a gaze. What did she mean by that? Why was she looking at her like that? Even if Yin Qianqian was drunk, it should not be a big deal. She was not so delicate that she could not take care of others. Could it be that he had a poor taste in alcohol? While Liang Yunqing's thoughts were running wild, Sina did not say anything more and just turned around to leave. Do you want some water? Liang Yunqing carefully moved to Yin Qianqian's side. Yin Qianqian did not say anything. He just took off his coat and threw the clothes directly into her arms. Oh! What the hell? Liang Yunqing was helpless, but she could not argue with a drunkard. She could only walk over and hang his clothes on the clothes rack at the side. After hanging them up, Liang Yunqing even solemnly tidied up the clothes. After all, the clothes were probably more valuable than her. When she turned her head again, she found that Yin Qianqian was already sitting proudly on the sofa. He seemed to have loosened the buttons on his shirt for comfort. However, the way he undid the buttons on his shirt was not like others. He just undid the buttons on the collar to let himself breathe. Instead, he undid all the buttons on his shirt to reveal his strong chest. Below that was his abdominal muscles. His honey-colored skin was neither unsightly dark nor weak pale. It was a perfect fit, a unique charm that belonged to a man. Yin Qianqian's figure perfectly illustrated what it meant to look thin in clothes and have flesh when undressed. There was a layer of muscle on his chest and abdomen. It was not an exaggeration, but it showed that they could burst out with strength at any time. Liang Yunqing widened her round eyes and swallowed. She walked over and poked Yin Qianqian's shoulder lightly with her finger. Hey! Hey! Don't be drunk. You're suddenly so bold. Yin Qianqian's eyes narrowed slightly. It was unknown whether he was awake or asleep. He slowly opened them and his gaze fell straight on Liang Yunqing, like a wild beast staring at a little rabbit that did not know what was going on. Suddenly, he had a bad feeling. Liang Yunqing hesitated for a moment. Before she could turn around and escape, he grabbed her arm and flipped her over and pressed her under him. Chapter 54. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 54. Alcohol must be rejected. Author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. What's the situation now? You, what are you doing? Liang Yunqing's eyes widened, like a kitten whose fur stood on end. She looked vigilantly at the person on top of her. Yin Qianqian still did not speak. He just supported his body and stared at her from above. It was as if he wanted to swallow her whole. Liang Yunqing broke out in cold sweat. The atmosphere was not right. The air seemed to have frozen. Liang Yunqing could smell the alcohol on Yin Qianqian's body and could not help but sigh. He was just drunk and lost his composure. He should find a way to sober him up. In the place where Liang Yunqing used to work, she often saw some drunkards. These drunkards were all in different forms and their drunken postures were all different. After getting drunk, some people would fall asleep. Some people liked to talk nonsense. Some people liked to tell their family secrets to others. Some people liked to cry and some people liked to laugh. Some people even liked to give money to others after getting drunk until they were penniless. What was even more embarrassing was that the next day, he would be extremely regretful and come back to ask for money. In short, these things were considered normal. It was really troublesome to meet those people who were prone to violence after getting drunk. Then, what was this Yin Qianqian up to? She didn't know what tricks he would play later. It wasn't that she, Liang Yunsheng, liked to let her imagination run wild. She had heard of the legendary promiscuity after getting drunk, but she didn't want to try it out. Yin Qianqian's eyes were actually very clear. He did not seem to be drunk at all. Liang Yunsheng still did not believe that such a calm person would get drunk. But now, Yin Qianqian's reaction was just so wrong. Although Yin Qianqian was above Liang Yunsheng, he still very naturally supported his entire body with his hands to prevent the weight from falling on Liang Yunsheng's body. He lowered his head and slowly approached her face. Liang Yunsheng's eyes grew bigger and bigger, and her heart beat faster and faster. Did she have to get so close she could accurately feel the temperature of her body? Her hands, which had nowhere to put them, were already pressed against his bare chest. She really did not want to touch him on purpose. However, Liang Yunsheng seemed to have gotten used to him always doing something unexpected, therefore, Liang Yunsheng subconsciously closed her eyes. Unsurprisingly, she was pressed against her lips by a warm and soft lip. She gently touched it, and then her slightly warm cheeks. On the surface, she closed her eyes and remained unmoved. In fact, her heart was already in a mess. She really did not know what to do. If this continued, would it be the thing that she was most afraid of happening? But at this moment, Yin Qianqian suddenly let go of her. So what was the situation now? The flying spirit trip was confusing. Liang Yunsheng widened her eyes and sat up straight from the sofa. She blinked her watery black eyes and waited for Yin Qianqian's next move. She did not have the slightest awareness of running away. Yin Qianqian sat there with his arms on the back of the sofa. The hair on his forehead was slightly messy. His eyes were slightly narrowed and his chest rose and fell. His two long legs were stretched casually. It was a posture that was not restrained, however, he put on an elegant appearance. We can begin. Chapter 55. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 55. Other people have sex with us. Author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. Can we start now? Start what? Liang Yunsheng now had some self-awareness and was ready to escape from the scene of this tragedy. Sing. It had to be said that Yin Qianqian's hoarse voice was quite sexy, but... Liang Yunsheng thought that she had heard wrong. What did he just say to her? Sing, Yin Qianqian answered again, and it was exactly the same as before. Sing, sing, sing what? Liang Yunsheng stood up in fear and trepidation. Facing Yin Qianqian on the sofa, it was as if all the children who went out to visit their parents on New Year's Day were asked to perform a show in front of their parents. She stood in front of Mr. Parents, very seriously, in a standard standing posture. Don't argue with drunk people anyway, it was just a harmless request. Liang Yunsheng comforted herself and decided to do it. But what was she singing? I wonder what Yin Qianqian's taste in songs is. How about? I come to collect the songs that are popular. Little apple it is. You are my little apple, no matter how much I love you, I can't get enough of you. She hummed unwillingly, and Liang Yunsheng did not forget to move her body back and forth to beat the beat for herself. Song of Saliva, rejected. Sing. Give you listen, you actually think that I am a song of saliva. And you still want me to sing some deep song for you. A children's song. Yin Qianqian said these two words very quickly. What the hell, you want to sing a children's song again? Do you really think that I'm a child? Liang Yunsheng tried to refuse, but after seeing Yin Qianqian's serious face, she decided. Alright, I'll bear with it. Anyway, singing a children's song is more convenient than singing other songs. Who asked me to live under someone else's roof? I have to rely on others for my food and drink. I'll satisfy this little request of mine. Be good, little rabbit. Open the door. Open it quickly. I want to come back. If I shouldn't, I shouldn't. If mommy isn't back, I won't open the door for anyone. Finally, she finished singing. Liang Yunsheng was just about to give her instructions. Singing and dancing. You're asking for more and more, of course. Liang Yunsheng only complained in her heart and gritted her teeth to endure it. Little white rabbit, white and white. Both ears stand up. She likes to eat radishes and vegetables. As she read Liang Yunsheng's name, she bent her hand over her head and moved her fingers up and down. She thought it was the rabbit's ears and jumped on the ground. At this moment, Yin Qianqian suddenly stood up from the sofa. Liang Yunsheng was stunned for a moment and saw Yin Qianqian walking in front of her. Liang Yunsheng's big eyes rolled around. She did not know if it was an illusion, but she actually heard Yin Qianqian's laughter, although it was so soft that it was almost inaudible. By the time she thought of carefully verifying this matter, Yin Qianqian had already restrained his emotions. Dumb. A soft word came out of his throat. You aren't drunk. Yin Qianqian tidied up his clothes, and his actions were as usual. You played me again. Liang Yunsheng protested loudly. That was why she put so much effort into taking care of Mr. Drunkard just now. So it was all fake, damn. Yin Qianqian did not respond. He just turned around and walked to his room. How dare you ignore me? Liang Yunsheng rushed to Yin Qianqian angrily. It's fine if you played me, but why didn't you say anything? Why did you run out to drink so late at night and make me worry? Yin Qianqian stared at Liang Yunsheng. His expression actually relaxed a little and became a little strange. Chapter 56. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 56. Be Your Man, author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. After saying this, Liang Yunsheng almost bit off her own tongue. Saying this directly exposed her strange thoughts, and that person obviously didn't need her to worry for no reason. I don't have any special meaning. Liang Yunsheng didn't know how to explain herself. The question that came out of her mouth was probably due to the peaceful interactions over the past few days, which made her feel a little dizzy. She actually said something that didn't put her in a proper position. Why did you say that? Yin Qianqian obviously did not intend to let that sentence go. I already said that I don't have any special meaning. Yin Qianqian's questioning made Liang Yunsheng a little embarrassed. Could she really open her mouth and tell him that when you were not back, I had been restless, afraid that something would happen to you? Even if she said that he believed her, she would be ridiculed. Are you interfering in my affairs? Yin Qianqian's voice sounded coldly. What do you mean by interfering? This word is too. Liang Yunsheng's heart sank. She could not continue. For some reason, it was just Yin Qianqian's usual cold words, but it made her feel a little sad. It was as if the two of them were strangers who had nothing to do with each other. Women are generally like this. They don't allow their own men to have any fun outside. The slightest contact with a woman from the outside world is associated with an unclean relationship. If you're drunk, you'll think that you'll smell the scent of a one-night stand. Are you afraid that I'll? How about it? Yin Qianqian took another step forward, lowered his head, and got closer to Liang Yunsheng. The faint smell of alcohol filled the tip of Liang Yunsheng's nose, as if she was drunk too. Her face suddenly turned red until it reached the tip of her ears. No, I'm not. You can do whatever you want with others. What do you mean? What do you mean? Her man Liang Yunsheng complained in a low voice, and you say that I'm thinking too much. It's just that you misjudged your relationship. I don't care what you do. What are you mumbling about? Yin Qianqian stood where he was and asked calmly. Liang Yunsheng was absolutely sure that Yin Qianqian had heard what she said 100%. He was deliberately trying to see if he had the courage to say it again. Humph, I say that you, Mr. Een, are wise, divine, handsome, suave, handsome, 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 and handsome. Everyone loves you. Liang Yunqing rambled. Thank you. She actually had the nerve to say thank you. Liang Yunqing was completely speechless and admitted defeat. It was just that the slightly awkward atmosphere from before had been alleviated. The plane ticket back to the country the day after tomorrow, Yin Qianqian said and turned to go back to his room. Liang Yunqing was left standing in the same place and sighed. He was such a self-made person. He had brought her here after buying the plane ticket, and now he was leaving without any hesitation. The next day, the two packed up the things they had bought in Country D and boarded the plane. It was another 10 hours of jet lag. Fortunately, Liang Yunqing was still full of energy when she returned home. This trip could be considered a good memory for her. When she returned home, a yellow meatball that had gained another round of weight pounced on her. You've gained a lot more weight. Liang Yunqing was bored and tried her best to resist its passionate attack. After returning to the country, Yin Qianqian, who had taken a half-month vacation, began to get busy again. Liang Yunqing was also busy. Just as Yin Qianqian had planned, this foreign trip was not just a trip for Liang Yunqing. Liang Yunqing's goal had become clearer, which was to study hard in Country D. She could not let Yin Qianqian look down on her. Of course, she wanted to be able to raise her head arrogantly and look down on everyone in the future. Life was on the right track, just as Liang Yunqing had expected. Yet, there was always someone who wanted to break her peace. Yunqing. A familiar voice made Liang Yunqing stop in her tracks. She had made an appointment with the cook to learn how to cook steak tonight, so she chose to pick the ingredients herself. However, just as she reached the door of the store, she heard this unpleasant voice behind her. Chapter 57. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 57. The Metamorphosis of the Little Sparrow Author. Bitter days. Machine translation. Indeed, that voice made her very uncomfortable. But she still stopped and turned around. Liang Yunqing was stunned for a moment, but she quickly recovered her original emotions. That was the calmness and steadiness that she had learned from Yin Qianqian. Mom. Auntie Sue. Su Nanchun was also stunned by Liang Yunqing's sudden change of address. She did not care and pulled the corners of her lips. Her expression was still relaxed. Yunqing. This time, Auntie came to find you because she has something to talk to you about. Talk. Liang Yunqing was confused. She didn't know what else she could talk to her about. Back then, she didn't say a word and didn't even tell her the reason. Then, she took her to the Liang family and left her there. Did she find out the time of her trip today, or did they meet by accident? But it wasn't important anymore. What was important was that what could she talk to her about? Reminisce or talk about her current life. If she only thought of caring about her now, then she would really have to trouble herself. No matter what, Liang Yunqing was not a cold-hearted person. Therefore, she was secretly grateful to the Su family for raising her. Thinking of this, Liang Yunqing still complied with her request. Liang Yunqing brought Su Nanchun to a coffee shop with good taste. Su Nanchun stood in front of the door and was slightly stunned. Liang Yunqing looked at her indifferently. Don't worry, I will pay the money. With that, she turned around and walked in first. Liang Yunqing found a quiet corner and sat down with Su Nanchun. Why are you looking for me? Just tell me directly. There's no need to beat around the bush. I don't have much time. Yin Qianqian, who had been busy for many days, rarely came home for dinner. It was because of this that Liang Yunqing prepared. Su Nanchun looked at the girl in front of him and was a little absent-minded. Liang Yunqing had changed a lot after not seeing her for more than half a year. Her face, which was originally a little baby fat, became more exquisite and lovely. Her bangs, which were originally covering her face, were clipped by an exquisite diamond hair clip, revealing her smooth and clean face confidently. Her long hair was dyed with dust and a faint maroon color. The ends of her hair that hung down her chest were slightly curled. In the past, Liang Yunqing always wore other people's old clothes, so she often appeared very wide and her figure could not be seen. Now, she was only wearing a dress that fit her. It was not ostentatiously gorgeous, but as long as one saw the stitching, accessories, and other details of the clothes, one could see that it was not cheap. Although Su Nanchun was only a poor middle-aged woman, every woman was very sensitive to the way they dressed. She was keenly aware that Liang Yunqing had changed. She had changed from a little girl who was full of rustic aura to a more noble one. She had really become an untouchable daughter of a rich family. You seem to be living quite well recently. I should have said it very clearly just now. If you have something to say, just say it. Liang Yunqing's long eyelashes lowered slightly. A faint shadow formed in front of her eyes, covering her originally bright black eyes. At this moment, Su Nanchun realized that Liang Yunqing had changed not only her appearance, but also her entire personality and temperament. Liang Yunqing was obviously not as calm as she looked on the surface. After all, she was not experienced enough. However, the things that Yin Qianqian had taught her over the past few days were more than enough to deal with this ordinary middle-aged woman. I came to look for you this time about setting sail, Su Nanchun said. She clearly stated her purpose, but Liang Yunqing could not help but feel a little confused. Chapter 58. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 58. All of this is far from enough. Author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. Su Qihang. How long has it been since he heard this name? Liang Yunqing almost forgot about this person. She didn't expect Su Nanchun to mention him. She had to admit that she was a little disappointed. When Su Nanchun found her, Liang Yunqing thought for a moment that her mother might suddenly have a conscience and want to see how her daughter, whom she had brought up by herself, was doing. Was she well fed and well dressed? Was she bullied by others? Perhaps. Such a mother was probably not worth her any nostalgia. You came to me today to talk about Su Qihang. Yes. I hope that you will not pester Su Qihang anymore. Qihang is my only son, my lifeline. We worked hard to send him abroad and studied for so many years. He is about to become a great man. I can't destroy him because of you. Because I destroyed him. Liang Yunqing felt like there was something wrong with her ears. She really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I have a clear conscience. I've never done anything bad. On the contrary, Su Qihang has harassed me again and again. If I don't find him, I'll let him go. Today, you actually came to tell me not to pester Su Qihang. What exactly did you do to my son? He's like a demon now. He doesn't even return home. He doesn't know what he's doing all day. He even said that if we don't let you return, he will cut off all relations with us. Did you say something to him? Are you dissatisfied with us sending you to the Liang family? If we don't send you there, can you be like this now? He is indeed quite strange, so I suggest you take him to see a doctor, a psychiatrist directly. Liang Yunqing laughed softly. Are you calling my son a psychopath? It's better to be safe than sorry. After all, he had a mother who was biting people, so Liang Yunqing held back her vicious words. However, Su Nanchun was already stunned. Yunqing, you've changed. She finally understood that the current Liang Yunqing was really not the past her. The past Liang Yunqing would never be so aggressive. Isn't that good? If I don't change, similar things like being abandoned by you may happen many, many more times. Liang Yunqing picked up the coffee on the table and took a sip. It was slightly bitter. In short, the purpose of my visit today is to tell you to stop pestering my son. Otherwise, I'm going to risk my old life. You're going to stir up trouble for all of you. Liang Yunqing put on an exaggerated expression of shock and then laughed. I'm so scared. Indeed, she didn't need to care about any threats from this middle-aged shrew. In fact, if she hadn't thought about her past feelings, she probably wouldn't have agreed to sit face to face with her in the first place. Su Nanchun was angered by Liang Yunqing's taunts. She got up and left. "Auntie Su, aren't you going to eat more? I'll pay for it. You can order as much as you want. After all, there are many good things here. You don't know how many times you can eat them in your lifetime," Liang Yunqing said to her back. Su Nanchun walked faster because of Liang Yunqing's words. It seemed that she had won this time. However, this was just a verbal pleasure. She was not strong enough, far from enough, whether it was on the outside or inside. What she wanted was not to wear a suit of armor to resist the attack, not to pretend to be strong, but to train herself to be indestructible. Liang Yunqing sat in her seat with her eyes lowered and did not move for a long time. Until a person sat opposite her. Chapter 59. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 59. If anyone offends me, I will punish them. Author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. Liang Yunqing slowly raised her head. As expected, she saw the man's indifferent expression. He was always like this, as if he was not in this world and only had his own world. "Why is it you? The bodyguard saw you leaving with a stranger and informed me in time." Yin Qianqian's gaze fell on Liang Yunqing, and his words were concise. "L.RG the bodyguard." Liang Yunqing did not say anything, but she was not stupid. How did Su Nanchun know that she would appear in front of the supermarket? Which driver could she have bribed, Yin Qianqian's driver, or a bodyguard sent to protect her? The only possibility was that Yin Qianqian had done it on purpose. He had deliberately let Su Nanchun find her, so what was his purpose? Was it to let her see clearly the fragility that still existed in her heart? "Then, did you hear what I said just now?" Liang Yunqing asked tentatively. Yin Qianqian did not make a sound, but nodded quietly. Liang Yunqing laughed softly and said with a self-deprecating tone, "It's really bad, I'm really bad. My performance was very bad, right?" "No, you did very well just now." Yin Qianqian gave her a rare and awkward affirmation. "I'm not talking about just now, I'm talking about now. I'm really useless. We agreed that we can't care about the past. We have to abandon the past and become a new Liang Yunqing." I tried my best to say something that could retaliate and hurt her as well. But after seeing her appear and saying those words that were going to fight me to the death, I would still be very sad. You are not wrong, Liang Yunqing. No one is born cold-blooded. You will have love and hatred. This is unavoidable. Yin Qianqian, who had always been cold-hearted, actually said such words. It was really surprising. But I want to be like you, and not be moved by any emotions. You mean that I am cold-blooded? I don't mean that. I mean, I want to be like you. I want to be able to face everything calmly. I don't want to be disturbed by everything in the outside world. I don't want to lose my judgment because of my own feelings. In fact, the two of them knew what kind of person he was. Yin Qianqian nodded silently. Cold-blooded or vicious, it's not for no reason. I admit that I'm ruthless when I do things, but Liang Yunqing, you have to remember that I'm not a killing maniac for no reason. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I will definitely kill them. So, if it wasn't for this person who offended you, why would you work hard for this?" Liang Yunqing was slightly shocked. She finally raised her head completely and looked straight at Yin Qianqian. What he meant was, "Your sadness today is not a shame. What's important is that tomorrow, you will get these things back from them bit by bit. If you don't explain it properly, they are your motivation." That seemed to be the case. Fortunately, Su Nanchuan's appearance this time did not affect Liang Yunqing much. She had already thought it through. It was a waste of time to be sad for someone who did not value her. That moment of sadness seemed unnecessary. However, ever since the conversation with Yin Qianqian that day, Liang Yunqing had always fallen into deep thought. Whenever she thought of herself, she would also think of Yin Qianqian. He had said that the evil of others was the driving force for her success. Who had made him grow up? Miss Yunqing, did you hear what I said just now? Hao Qing looked at Liang Yunqing helplessly and was in a daze again. Ah. What did you say? Liang Yunqing smiled at him apologetically. I said that the date for you to study in Country D has been fixed. It will be in a week. So soon. Chapter 60. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 60. Why can't I bear to leave author? Bitter days. Machine translation. So soon. To leave. No. Liang Yunqing was really shocked by her own thoughts. She actually subconsciously felt that she had already set a date to go to Country D, it was too soon, and she actually didn't want to leave. No, this was too wrong. Was it because she didn't have to worry about living too comfortably by Yin Qianqian's side, which made her forget her original purpose? She actually felt reluctant to part with him. Why did such feelings arise? Liang Yunqing did not dare to think too deeply about it. When she recalled it, Yin Qianqian had specially brought her to Country D a few days ago. It was indeed not without reason. Country D was really beautiful. People could not help but be fascinated by it. Moreover, the university environment of T University was not something that an ordinary distance college could compare to. Liang Yunqing vaguely remembered seeing girls of different skin colors walking out of the school. Not only did they have a unique temperament, but each of them had their own unique personality. They were arrogant but not arrogant, elegant but not pretentious. Yes, she also wanted to be such a person, to be able to control the direction of her life. It was also because of this contact with T University that Liang Yunqing could not help but start to work hard. Going to Country D to study had almost become her only goal during this period of time. This was also Yin Qianqian's goal. He wanted to take her to adapt to the environment first so that she would not be afraid of strange places and even yearn for them. So, leaving this place was obviously very good. Why did he have such a melancholic feeling, like he was reluctant to leave? Liang Yunqing could not help but feel that she was being ridiculous. Miss Yunqing, you don't have to be sad, and you don't have to be reluctant to leave, sir. Although he is busy with work, he will still find time to visit you. What? What did you say? Liang Yunqing could not help but look at Hao Qing strangely as she said. She was reluctant to. Yin Qianqian. Hao Qing naturally knew that Liang Yunqing had heard his words, but since she had asked, he also had the responsibility to repeat it again. You looked sad just now because you thought that you wouldn't be able to see Sir again after you went to Country D. Actually, you don't have to worry too much. He will go to Country D to see you. Moreover, the technology is so advanced now. When you really miss each other, you can even video chat. You're thinking too much. Hao Qing, this guy who liked to imagine things, why did she miss Yin Qianqian? The two of them had only been together for more than half a year. During this half a year, Yin Qianqian spent most of his time on his own things, and then spent the few moments together. They spent more than half of their time arguing and bickering. Liang Yunqing's throat was choked. She did not know why, but she kept thinking about Yin Qianqian. The things she remembered were all strange. The doorbell rang, interrupting Liang Yunqing's chaotic thoughts. After the servant opened the door, a person rushed in from outside. He was dressed in fiery red clothes and had red hair. He moved in a hurry. Liang Yunqing was stunned. It was Yan Hua, whom she had not seen for a long time. Of course, she had not seen Yan Hua often, but he might still be protecting him in the dark. It was rare that Yan Hua did not look like a frivolous ruffian. Instead, he looked anxious and serious. He frowned and walked directly to Hao Cheng's side. He rushed up and said, "Master, he." Hao Cheng raised his hand to stop Yan Hua's words. His face was still the same smile. "Miss Yunsheng, please go back to your room and rest, okay?"